My ride or die has to be someone who will go to the end of the world for me. And by that I mean somebody who is willing to do anything to make me happy.
They're really loyal. They're always there for me. They accept my quirks and how I'm weird sometimes.
They are very funny, and they just always put a smile on my face whenever I feel sad or just feel angry.
Growing up in Waldwick, you heard about drugs and alcohol, and you might have dabbled a little bit, but you never didn't feel safe. Everything in Waldwick was very community. Everybody knew each other, everybody looked out for each other, even if you didn't like each other. If something happened, if something went down, like somebody's mother passed away, somebody's father got killed accidentally in a car accident, everybody came together, no matter if you liked them or not. And you don't have that in larger cities or inner cities, you know what I mean? Everybody's pretty much for themselves and for theirs, My door was never locked. People went in and out of my house like it was nothing. There were times where I woke up and my friend's sitting in my chair on my computer like, good morning. You can't do that anywhere else. Nowadays you can't do that either, but Waldwick always made me feel safe. School system was always phenomenal. If there was issues, learning disabilities, bullying, anything like that, there was always somebody there to help. They say marijuana is a gateway drug, and it's funny because I don't want my son to know, but I feel like he knows. But I smoked pot in high school. Never once did I say, you know what? This isn't enough. Let me go ahead and pick up a needle and stick it between my toes and see how that goes. Michelle Francis.
Kristen Mendoza.
Mike Stonehouse.
My name is David Cubby.
I guess we started becoming friends in around 8th or 9th grade.
Okay.
It was actually a Halloween, and we bumped into each other, just out in the streets, and then just hung out and connected. That was it.
How would you have described Tim that day, personality-wise, the day you met him?
Just a happy, average kid.
So how did that compare to the last time that you saw him?
Quite the opposite. He was still positive, but he was smart enough and intelligent enough that he understood his situation. He understood he was an addict at that time, so he just, I don't know, it was like all that happiness out of him was just drained. He was a tremendous guitar player. He's one of those people that could pick up a song. He could just kind of read the music sheet and play it. When I heard he pawned off his guitar, that sucked. That's when I kind of realized he was, beyond just using here and there.
First time I can remember being friends with him was probably the 3rd grade when he started giving me hints on Legend of Zelda 2, showing me how to find the magic items and all of that. So I would say probably 3rd grade. We had a lot of mutual interests. We both like Nintendo. And when you're a kid, it's very easy to make fast friends. And particularly in small towns where you're kind of encouraged to do so rather quickly. I had noticed that that Tim was much more engaged in trying to really control the narrative around himself, and on top of that, still fighting the urges to go back to what he had already tried to overcome on numerous occasions. He had been in and out of rehab a few times.
He was like the perfect son. He was brilliant. I thought he'd be a professor in Princeton right now, And to see him just keep going downhill and downhill, it was horrible. Police came to the house and said that Timmy had been found murdered in Patterson. I didn't know what to think. We weren't sure if he had an overdose or something because he was, addicted to heroin. So they told us that he was murdered, and then they said that, he was beaten to death.
Drugs are a fault. I mean, yeah, those two guys should and will burn for what they did, but
the one thing that really makes me think about how it all happened is the fact that I think Tim would have eventually recovered. I saw Tim as a person that was particularly brilliant. I mean, he like, as a lot of people who know him would say, he could pick up just about anything and master it. He had the drive to do things that most people don't have. Not only in music, but in art, even in his trade. I mean, he had become a phenomenal electrician. He could do any kind of job and it wasn't just the fact that he could do it. It was the fact that he would do it to the finest detail of perfection in what he thought was a good job.
I miss him for who he is, for who he was. Just, for a long time, he and I were like inseparable. So it was, even though we disconnected towards the last couple of years, it's, every single day I think of him.
Can anybody speculate where they would have been if things had been different? No, but certainly I would have seen Tim as eventually being the person that would have been able to emerge from his own frustrations in being able to express himself artistically, and possibly could have been someone that the world would have remembered.
We met in 8th grade. We were in homeroom together, and we immediately became like frenemies because we were very competitive, but we still loved each other. He was always like the loudest, most obnoxious, and like I was like trying to be up there with him, but he always won. I would say probably like by October of our school year, we were like best friends. Meeting him initially, he was just so full of life, so full of energy. And then the last time I saw him, he was definitely lifeless. A year after we graduated, he got into a really bad car accident. He was hit head-on by a drunk driver, and it broke his leg in like 7 different places, broke his hip. He had to basically be held together by pins and needles, and that was pretty much the downfall from when that happened to when he died. That was the beginning. He was prescribed a lot of pain medication, and unfortunately the pain medication was his gateway into the addiction side of it. He had to go through a lot of physical therapy. He healed physically as much as he could have. He always had a limp, he was always in pain. He got a settlement, from the accident because it wasn't his fault. He was just hit head on. He was in a little Jetta hit by a Denali, so the car looked like a can crushed, and I don't even know how he survived that. With that money, he went wild. He got to live his best life with money that none of us ever had. We could have never dreamed of being, in our early 20s and, have this disposable income, which he didn't know was disposable because it all went away. His trips to Miami, his Louis Vuitton bags, his purebred dog. After the money went away, then his happiness went away, and he would, come back to reality a little bit. And he was dim, he wasn't himself. He went missing when we were living together. I think it might have been like 2013. And that's when I really found out that he had a bad drug problem. So his family, reached out. They're like, have you heard from Kevin? And I was like, you know what? No, it's been a day or two. And then I started to get panicky because now I'm like, okay, wait, where is Kevin? You know, when I start calling him, it's going to his voicemail. And he and I were actually on like the same cell phone plan. So I called to see, you know, when was the last time this number was in use, and it was like 2 days ago. And I was like, wait a minute, this is crazy. Like, where is he? I went to the police, the Waldwick police, and actually Officer Goodell came over and went through his room to see like if there was any like traces of like where he might have gone. And we didn't know Kevin's license plate number because the car he supposedly bought was rented. He was found in Allendale at this woman's house, like an old patient that he used to work with. And they went on this like bender together of drugs, like morphine and all these painkillers. And he wound up getting really sick. He went to rehab. He came back a little bit, you know, like just to have a place to stay. But that was definitely the beginning of the end of our relationship as close friends. You know, like he'll always be my family. But that was when I was like, you know, I have a son. I can't have this. I didn't know that he was going through this because I had to make a decision for myself and for my son because we completely took separate paths. And it was like, how can someone so close to me be so far away? We started kind of putting the pieces together that Kevin really was an addict. We didn't know he lost his job. He lost his job. He didn't have insurance to pay for his medications anymore. So stuff like that is what led him into the heroin use. I could have lost my son because of his decisions, you know? And not knowing that he was so like deep into this like web of ugly, it was really hard to walk away. I told him, listen, we can't be friends, you know, and he understood, which was even harder because I wanted him to fight me on it. I think the last time I spoke to him was like just a few weeks before he passed. And I said to him, like, you know what, I'm really proud of you. He got a new job. You know, he was apprenticing as a assistant to Dolores, one of the housewives of New Jersey. It was like his dream job because he was meant to be famous for something. He had no talent, but he was meant to be famous. Got him a new cell phone. He was like living in her mansion, like totally taking care of her appointments, like just in that life. And you know, he was sporting his new leg because he finally made the decision to get his leg amputated, and things were really looking up for him. And then like just like the beginning of September, like I just get a phone call and it's just Kevin died. It wasn't even an overdose. Like that's the crazy part is, you know, everyone thinks like, oh, you're addicted to drugs, you're gonna get an overdose. Because of his compromised immune system, he died of a septic embolism. He wasn't someone who was just trying to get high. He was trying to escape physical pain because someone else made a really bad decision one night and hit him head on. Hopefully, if the accident didn't happen, he would be in my life, you know. He would be in my kid's life. I got the phone call and Jack was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? When I said, well, someone we know very well passed away. He was like, who? And when I said Kevin, he just, you know, you could almost see a piece of Jack died too. You know, a piece of all of us died when Kevin died. I've lost family members, and losing Kevin was the hardest person to lose because he was like, he's who shaped who I am, you know. Whether it was good or bad that he did to me, I am who I am today because of him.
Kids that live in the inner city, they might not have the means to go, you know, we always joked around that the Waldwick kids would always go to Patterson to get what they needed and then come back to where it was safe.
You know, it's interesting because I would say that one of the first people that really alerted me to what was going on in Patterson would have to be Tim. I saw Tim maybe a couple days before he left Waldwick, probably for the last time, to go back to Patterson to live that life. But in the weeks before that, between when he had last, gotten himself out of rehab and relapsed again, I mean, I'd spent a lot of time with him just talking about Patterson, telling him, I simply began with just conversations about the fact that I was working down there and my impressions of the city and its history and the people that were there. And I forget what the comment was exactly that I had made, but it had something to do with, the problems that the city faces and whether it was the people of Patterson or their government that was kind of leading Patterson down a path that, I don't want to say was making things worse, but it wasn't making anything better. And it was Tim that said to me that, when I'm down there, the people of Patterson are the most giving, most forgiving people that you could possibly find. The sad fact of the matter is that there is no amount of money, there is no amount of programs that's going to change this. The problem is the mentality in addressing the situation overall. 3 programs won't do it, and 20 programs with poor oversight won't do it either. I mean, the idea has to be that we're all responsible for creating this issue, regardless of whether anyone has touched a drug or has ever, hasn't voted, whatever it is. We are all responsible for this thing. And until people realize that there's no way to try to just throw money at this, then, we're never going to get anywhere.
It's all a matter of strength. It's all a matter of what your surroundings are. It's all a matter of the demons that you have to deal with it within yourself. Well, my one friend that I've been friends with since 3rd grade, she went down that path, and there's only so much you can do, before you have to separate yourself because of your family and your job and your well-being and everything like that. It hurts, especially when you've been friends for 18, 20 years. Not even so much if, you start doing heroin or anything like that. Just, can I leave you in my house? Am I gonna come home and find you dead in my house?
Right. Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
That's not something I need. I don't need my 7-year-old coming upstairs and finding a friend OD'd in my bed.
Schools and the justice system, they tend to discipline before assisting. It needs to be looked at like a medical issue, not they throw them in jail, clean them up, and then put them back on the street kind of thing.
The only thing we can really do is try to have that compassion, try to reverse those stigmas. It shouldn't be that this person is lost. It shouldn't be that we can't be around this person because it might cost us material things. They might steal from us. They might harm us. If you truly want to help somebody, if you truly are going to be sad that they're gone, you have to realize while they're still here that this is a human being.
I've always been the type to want to help people. And so, if anything, I would have gone to school to better equip myself to be able to help.
It stinks that Kevin, it's like assumed that, oh, he was a drug addict, or like, oh, he died of an overdose. Like, that's why I agreed to do this, because I really want people to know that it could happen to anybody.
How would you feel if you woke up tomorrow and found
They were gone? I don't even like thinking about that.
I mean, I would be very...
I don't know what I would do. I don't know how to put into words.
No one knows where the ladder goes. You're gonna lose what you love the most. You're not alone in anything. You're not unique in dying. I feel estranged every now and then. Fall asleep reading science fiction. I wanna fly in your silver ship, but my mama hanging my sister said it's on now. The days are long now. The ups and the sundown in your twisted mind. If I gotta go first, I'll do it on my terms. promise breaks, or you'll be there when the next one's made. Kiss the feet of a charlatan, some imagine freedom. All the rest is predictable, trying the hardest to melt the snow, tie the knots to concentrate. Keep on pulling that rope will break. I know now, oh, it's gotta go now. Oh, I've gotta calm down, or I'll lose my place. If I gotta go first, I'll do it on my terms. 'Cause Lord, I'm tired of traitors always changing sides. Well, welcome the new age, covered in warrior pain. The lights from the jungle to the sky. See now a starboard, looks just like a blood orange. Don't it just make you wanna cry? Precious friends of mine. Well, I know when it's finally done, this whole life's a hallucination.